Welcome back, everybody. It is December 16th, 2018, 12:46 a.m., and we are taking a look at the last 12 hours of precipitation weather on the continental U.S. That will not be the only topic of this video, as we have a bunch to talk about. Now, what I want you to focus on here as I stop this so I can control it myself is this rotation right here over the Ohio River Valley right now. This is the same exact storm that we've been talking about that started in the upper west, where we have another pretty significant situation going on, not just in the western U.S., but up near Vancouver, especially with hurricane force winds producing ridiculously sized waves, apparently, according to the data that I've been reading. 25 to 35 foot waves are crashing into the coast of Vancouver Island and other parts of Canada, and that second half of that wave is now beginning to dip down into areas of Washington, Oregon, and then rain for California. And this system is going to be interesting because this is the one that may determine the nor'easter for Christmas. But let's first talk about this one right here. Now, I want you to focus on how it is counterclockwise spinning. That is a northern hemisphere trait. We talk about that often, especially during hurricane season. Southern hemisphere, you're going to see storms turn in clockwise motion based off the Earth's rotation, apparently. That's up for debate. Not here to debate that. But the reason I bring that up is because we also have a significant situation going on in Australia. So like I said, we're going to have a little bit of info in this video. But first and foremost, let's talk about this system here, which is currently kind of settling in a western direction, and it will hook up to the north, and it's already causing winter warnings in parts of New York and a little bit down in Pennsylvania. Now, it's not a guarantee at this moment. Higher elevations, more than likely, yes, will receive some snow from this particular low pressure system. As you can see, some of this moisture is being pulled right up from the Bahamas areas in the Caribbean, and this is fueling this part of the storm. So you can see a lot of the reds and the greens in here. That is warm moisture, but as it gets pulled in that counterclockwise direction, that is when it is brought up to Canada in that colder air and then changing over to snow and ice rain mix. So as I said before, this was about 16 hours ago is frame one. So you could see here that this had crossed over the Ohio River Valley area, moving up towards the northeast. And then our last frame here is current right now. You can see most of the severe weather is off into the Atlantic, and now we're starting to see that moisture roll back in over New York, the part of the Great Lakes, and even up in Canada, which is what's causing these little blues and purples to show up. So that is why, as you can see here, we have the winter weather advisory going on in North Pennsylvania, Northeast Pennsylvania, and then most of southern New York, now dipping into Massachusetts, part of Connecticut, and Vermont and New Hampshire as well. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Not expected too much of an accumulation. The next system may be very different. And before I continue, for those of you that live in Illinois right now, there is a big amber alert in all these counties right now. I know it's not really weather related, but this chart shows things like that, and I figured it was important enough to let people know that may not have received those messages, those emergency alerts on your phone for amber alerts. There is one going on right now over a big chunk of Illinois. So for those of you that live there, that's the info for you. Now you can see these purple colors here. This is gale force warnings. If you scroll down to this chart here and match the colors, that's how you can tell what you're dealing with. And there it is right there, gale warning. This is talking about wind. Now, like I said, guys, there are 80+ mile-an-hour winds right now slamming into parts of Vancouver Island and then down into the U.S. as well. We're talking hurricane force winds. And this is the second time in 2 weeks that I've been reporting on this. In Montana, we had 76 mile-an-hour winds due to a storm that was just pretty much out of nowhere, and it was breaking hurricane force speed. So that is why we made that video. A similar situation going on right now, and I would not be surprised if we start getting some readings here for gale force winds that reach that area of hurricane force. Now, the light greens you see there, where are they? Here we go. Coastal flood advisories, okay? So we're dealing with a rain situation that's going to be dipping down into this area. We're going to talk about that in a bit. And now jumping over to tropical tidbits, we can get a little bit of a closer view of this low pressure system that is currently affecting the eastern states and the Ohio River Valley. Like we said, you could see the beginning of that low pressure system that is causing pretty much havoc in the Vancouver area move in. And you could see here how it kind of gets pretty serious along these areas here, and the big rain band you could see here moving in to Washington, Oregon, California. We're going to talk about that as well, but focus on this area here, and you can kind of see what I was talking about with how the rotation is pulling the moisture around back into the States, in through Canada, the cold air, and then back down through New York, and that is what's causing the snow situation. So as we watch this move, you can see how the low pressure jumps from the Tennessee, Kentucky area, and then kind of pops up right over the Chesapeake Bay. Right there, you can see. So this is by later. This is by the end of tonight, actually, or the early morning hours of right now. I know it is 12:53 a.m., so it is technically the 16th, but these charts don't always update right away. So that's what I'm trying to say here. So let's get into the 16th. Back up to the 16th rather, and again, low pressure is centralized right over the Chesapeake Bay, and you can see the blue here in New York and the upper area of Pennsylvania. Once again, if you match that to this chart, that is why we're seeing winter weather advisories in that area, and the gale force winds here. That is due to the rotation of this system and how broad it is. Now remember, we had a big wind event in Montana and then a huge wind event, rain and snow in parts of Texas, and now this thing is starting to roll right up this area, and now we're starting to see our little flash flood warnings and all these different rain and snow and ice and sleet warnings. But these purples you see out here in the Atlantic are the gale force, and that's why we're dealing with that, is because this is such a large rotating system. Sorry guys, that there's super wind events going on in Massachusetts and parts of Maine and such as the wind is coming back into the state. So I want you to really keep that drilled into your minds, that when we get these low pressure systems, they act almost like minor hurricanes. They are spinning in a counterclockwise direction. It's the same situation when we get lined up for nor'easters, which we will talk about also, because there is one possibly on the way right around Christmas. We spoke about this too. So the counterclockwise rotation is the reason you're seeing these colors, and as it dips back down into the warmer water, or the warmer weather, sorry guys, you can see here it turns back to green, which would be rain. So you picture a big giant circle, the warm moisture coming up and then getting cold, turning into snow, and then as it gets back down towards the south, it stays rain again. So that is one event we are looking at. So let's look at it once again on Tropical Tidbits. This is what is expected. It's expected to roll right along the coast and then out into the Atlantic, but the issue might be is when that snow gets pulled back down into states like New York and Pennsylvania, as you can see right there as we move into the 18th. So potential for snow between the 17th and 18th for New York and parts of Pennsylvania, and as always, Vermont and New Hampshire. Now, at this time, you're also beginning to see the beginning stages of the second system we're going to be talking about that may be the cause of the pre-Christmas or Christmas Day nor'easter. And it's going to begin with snow basically all the way up from the Canadian border down into the Rockies, and then you're going to see a very similar pattern to this storm. This thing is going to come down, it's going to roll across Texas, and then it's going to explode. And actually, I brought up a comparison picture. This is what we looked at the other day as far as the nor'easter being on Christmas Day. This was the forecast for the 25th. It has changed a little bit. It's showing up a little bit earlier now, along the 22nd or 23rd. So let's check that out. As you can see, it's a high pressure forcing down with the low pressure. Here is that rain moving into the northwestern part of the U.S., along with some cold snow. You could see in Canada it's very cold, so any moisture touching that area is snow. You got snow in front of this moisture system as well. So as we move forward, you could see it kind of skips around and then mixes with a Caribbean slash Gulf moisture system with some severe weather going through Florida. Now, again, guys, I told you I'm going to be jumping around a lot. We've also spoken in the last couple of weeks about the uprise in tornadoes that they are expecting and have already happened in Florida. And this is going to be another one of those situations. When you see these long strips that go across Florida, those are strips of severe weather. So you have to remember there's an upflow of air that comes from the Gulf, whether it comes up this way or whether it's being forced this way because of the west to east movement of the jet stream. You get that circulation going, and that's happening over Florida because of the El Nino that we are in. And what that means basically is the jet stream, which you can see along this blue line here, is dipping much lower than it's supposed to be, which is why we are in El Nino. And what that's doing is that's transferring the tornado season that is usually in the Ohio River Valley and pushing it farther to the east and to the south, which puts Florida right in the crosshairs. So going in from basically the 18th till December 21st, Florida needs to really watch out for the tornado situation because the severe weather is coming from the Caribbean and also from areas of the Bahamas and mixing in this area, along with a trade wind that's coming from west to east, like I said, with the jet stream. That's what causes those vortexes. But here we go. Follow this low pressure here, and this is what we're expecting along the Christmas 2 days before Christmas, Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day. You could see how this system has become much larger now. The low pressure is centraled over, looks like West Virginia now, with the back end of it being snow. So we got Kentucky, we got Tennessee in there, parts of Illinois with snow too, and then Michigan and the Great Lakes are a cause of this too. Any moisture that passes over the Great Lakes, if it's cold enough, lake affects snow. But what I want you to focus on again is the symbol, the 9 symbol that we usually see for nor'easters. That's when the moisture comes up from the Caribbean, gets counterclockwise rotated into Canadian air, which is cold, and then comes back down into the northeast states. Whether it's rain or snow, a nor'easter is a nor'easter, and this is the typical shape we see. Now, the low pressure being over land is actually a good thing. It'll keep this thing at bay for the most part. If it was half over and half over ocean, half over land, we'd be dealing with a different story here. Much higher winds, more potential for snow, but that is not out of the question yet because as we move forward in this, you can see this is happening on December 21st now. The low pressure will be over New York and Pennsylvania, and then as we move forward, you see the low pressure rises above New York right into Canada here, and then is now they're showing when the snow may be an issue, which is the 22nd, 3 days before Christmas. So like we said, anything after 5 days is basically a coin toss. You can basically shift a pattern 8 hours a day, depending on the data we receive. And that's exactly what's happened. It's actually delayed the system over the last couple days, and now it's showing to be really strong along the 22nd, 23rd, and even moving into the 24th, you could see there's a snow squall that comes down from Canada. So this may be an issue where we're not dealing with a nor'easter on Christmas per se, but it could be a system that is going to cause a lot of travel issues for those of you that travel before Christmas. So it may be a worse off situation than when you're already at home or with family on Christmas. You go watch it snow. This is going to be during a travel time, so that makes it a little bit worse. So once again, I'll back up here real quick. You can see low pressure over New York, clear-cut counterclockwise spin being fueled from the warm, moist air down in the Bahamas and in the Gulf, being pulled up, counterclockwise spin, back end of its snow as it pulls down that cold Canadian air because of the jet stream dip, allowing it to come down. Remember, upflows allow warm air up, down dips allow cold air down. So that's how you want to think of the jet stream, as a force field. And as you can see here, the Weather Channel is acknowledging the possibility of a white Christmas, which is actually something I learned is defined by 1 inch or more of snow on Christmas Day, whether that be snow that's already on the ground or snow that falls on that day. And this is what they're saying as of right now for expected the likeliness of who's going to get a white Christmas. You could see the light blue is possible, and then the darker shades are the likely areas. The New York City symbol here kind of covers part of it, but you could see the northern areas of the northeast states are more likely to get that white Christmas with snow already on the ground in some of these states. We do have a melt coming up, a little bit of a mild few days, which may melt that. But then again, we'd have that system we just spoke about that may replenish that snow. But areas, here we go, Colorado Rockies, and then the western part of the U.S., with that system that's moving in right now, is going to apparently bring snow to a lot of these west to central U.S. states. So there's a lot to look out for over the next couple days. And now that I know how long this video is, I'm actually going to break this into 2 videos because there is something else going on. Really quick, I want you to look at this low pressure system that is causing this havoc in Vancouver right now. And this is a massive system, guys. When you're talking about hurricane force winds or waves of this size, up to 30-foot waves smashing into the coast, that is a big deal. And that is also, as you can see when I move forward, you're going to see it's going to kind of come down into this area. But this is that system that is going to ride down into the Rockies and then eventually be that possible nor'easter. So this is going to be a double whammy. But just check out how tight these rings are and the severe weather right there by Vancouver Island. They are currently being smashed by this thing. And then I'll move forward for you, and we'll take a look at how it's going to travel across the U.S. That's our typical shot right there. It's almost like a bow effect. It comes down, and it comes across the middle of the country, and then usually comes up and then swirls around the U.S., and that's what we're going to be looking at. So that's that low pressure for you. And it's going to move across, and then the high pressure's in front of this low pressure. Moisture comes up from the Caribbean, and you will see that nor'easter looking system that we do not want, but more than likely we'll see from the 21st through the 25th, making Christmas maybe a little rough as far as traveling goes for the Northeast in particular. So with that said, guys, we need to also keep an eye on the rivers, the river gauges near the Ohio River Valley, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina. They are saturated. They've been getting a lot of rain lately, and because of that, you start matching some of these colors. Red is moderate flooding. You can see right here we have moderate flooding in Oklahoma. That was due to that system that passed through. And we also have Texas involved in this with high river accounts. We got the panhandle of Florida in there. We have also another red up in South Carolina plus North Carolina too. Actually, this is Virginia. Here's North Carolina right there. So basically all the southeast states have rivers that are either moderate or already flooding, and this is before the brunt of this is going to be over. So, all right, guys, with that said, I'm going to continue this on another video, and we are going to talk about this. This is actually Sydney smashed by severe storms bringing hail and flash flooding. A lot of damage done by this storm, which was created by emerging cell cluster. Same concept as hurricanes, guys. When a bunch of storm systems, a bunch of storm cells cling together, they cause a central rotation. They start bringing air up from the ocean, and that's how you get your typical tropical depression, tropical storm, category 1 hurricane. But because this is a rare situation, they're describing it by saying merging cell cluster. So this was kind of out of nowhere, although we do have Cyclone Owen that is in Australia as well. So a lot of different things going on, but you can see here 3 hours ago, 6 hours ago, 20 hours ago, they are talking about Sydney's weather event that they had. Lots of hail, lots of damage, down trees, and flooding, as well as this is closer to 80,000 people now without power currently. All right, so we will get into that soon. You can see that little thing right there. That's what we're talking about. This is northeastern Australia. There's also an issue going on in the south part of Australia, which we will get into in the next video as well. All right, guys, with that said, that's all I got for you for right now. I'm working on that second part of the video as we speak. Sorry for the long video. I'm going to break it down into links. Check the pinned comment for the time so you can click and skip around if need be. All right, guys, thank you so much. Hope you have a good night. I will be back shortly with the second part of the video. Bye-bye.